All right, I'm back working on this Honda GX160 today. I'm trying to get these two black bolts in here secured with Loctite. I'm using this blue 243 removable Loctite. I've already got one set. I've got one out ready to put some Loctite on it. So I'm gonna do that now. And I'll tighten it down with the wrench as far as I can get it, and then I'll check the torque on it. So I'm going to turn the engine over or up. Give me a dot of Loctite on those threads. Maybe a little too much, but it's not going to hurt. I'm going to go ahead and push it back in as far as it'll go. I know it's hard to see. This is a very small engine. Get it screwed in as far as I can with my fingers. Even though I have a ratchet wrench, they're similar to sockets, and if the bolt is too loose, you kind of have to hold the socket with your fingers for it to ratchet back. It's the same with the wrench, but it's so much easier to get into the small engine. I've just about got it tightened up here with my fingers. All right. So I'm gonna take the ratchet wrench. These things are your friend. I'm gonna get in here. I'm not gonna go crazy on it. The reason these are probably torqued is this piston arm has a little movement in it, and then of course if you go too tight, you're gonna crack the casting, which I've done plenty of times on trucks with timing covers, all sorts of things. Over tightening things, either breaking the casting or snapping bolts. So now that I've got it as snug as I can with my wrench, I'm gonna take this 1/4-inch torque wrench I got from Amazon, and if you see, I can't get it in here where it is. So I've got to move it now. Keep in mind the bolt on the bottom I've already tightened, and so it's where it needs to be. Everything's been greased up with white lithium, not having motor oil in there. So I'm gonna spin it around to where I can check the torque on it with this torque wrench. Let me get my light back out. I'm gonna turn it with my hand, and it's probably gonna disappear. Barely out of sight. You can see a little blue running out from it there, and I'm gonna see now if the wrench will fit in there. Just to get on that head, and it won't, so I'm gonna turn it a little more even though I can't see it. Let me tilt this dude back again. Get in here on that bolt head. There it is. So I'm going to watch this here. Like I said, even the 10 pounds I'm doing it at, this isn't a race car, hot rod, dragster. It's a small engine. It's going to go on a bike. So you just pull it over, and the indicator moves to how tight it is. It's always better to double check, and it's especially better not to over tighten. Okay, at this point in the game, I'm ready to put this gasket on and get this cover back on here. I'm going to do the same thing and use the removable blue Loctite on these bolts and get them torqued down to. Okay. Now I got this engine flipped up so we can start to put this cover on. I already dabbed the bolts just a little with blue Loctite. Not everyone has to do this. They may not even come loose, but you never know what vibration will do. I feel a little better now. I got my hat on. I knew I was missing something. So let's go ahead and get started on this. I pre-lubed this seal. Inside the seal here is a bearing gap, and then your bearing on the back, I've got white lithium grease in it too. So the gasket's kind of here. Let's see if we can start piecing this puppy on. It's meant to fit tight in that gasket where the crankshaft comes through. And we start wiggling it down. And I gave it a good mash, so it's close. The gasket, it made it through the holes on the gasket too. Doesn't fit. Well, actually, it kind of overlaps a little bit on the top and the bottom, so that's not a bad thing. So now that we've got it there, there we go. There we go. And one more. I have to do these videos pretty quick and whenever I get a window, and I'm gonna do some editing to get them published, but I'm not getting carried away with it and cutting out mistakes and looking like a genius here. This is a hobby to me. It's fun to me and I enjoy it. And like I said, I try to be real. So these heads are a 12 millimeter. I've got them on my impact wrench, but I am not gonna send them all the way down. I'm gonna love tap this to get them down just a little more. Get them close. If you were to shoot these all the way down, you will misalign the other bolt holes where they're definitely not going to want to go in. You'll strip the threads, or you could even crack this cover. And I've done it. That's why I'm so careful now. But you never can be too careful and something can still happen. Okay, even though, you know, the impact wrench is doing this clickety-clackety thing, that's just what they do. I don't think I went down tighter than it was supposed to be. If that did happen and say one of them's like 14 pounds, I'll just go ahead and turn all of them a little more to 14, since we may have mashed the gasket in that area. But probably is better to use a ratchet wrench, unless you're used to the impact. But after a while, you kind of start getting close and using torque wrenches, whether it's a 1/4 inch. I use their 3/8, half, you know, any car work. You kind of start getting in the ballpark, but you never nail it, is why you need them all. And then, you know, a lot of things, even on automobiles, like in the front suspension, it takes a lot of torque to get those things where they need to be. So I'm gonna get my ratchet wrench ready here. I've got another short 12 millimeter somewhere, maybe. There it is. 12. And I'm just gonna pop it on here and kind of feel where they're at. And they're all right where I kind of wanted them to be. Hopefully not too much. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to dig out my 3/8 inch torque wrench, ratchet wrench. It's actually a 1/2 inch, but I have the adapters I need to bring it down to 3/8. snap that puppy on. We'll just take the socket we were using. Okay. And everything's loose now. You store these torque wrenches with dial back down. It's hard to see these. I'm not sure if you can. But the lowest setting is 10. It says 12. So I'm going to do what looks like in between the 10 and 20 and just call it close enough. This is just a cover. They'll be snug, have that Loctite, won't come loose, and it's not going to be enough to cut into the gasket or crack anything, hopefully. So let's see where we are. It wasn't there yet. You'll hear it click. But first, let's just get them all a little closer to keep everything even, so we go opposite each other. Go here. 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 You can start to lose which way you were going too, but it's not that big of a deal. So let's see if we can get a click. Still no click yet. I may have the torque wrench a little too high. Let's dial it down just a hair, because that's snugging up pretty good. Just a hair. See if we can get a click now. Nope. We may be going a little too tight on these. Just have to keep working it. Being easy. Impatience can make everything worse. I'm gonna dial it down a little more because I think they are pretty close. It doesn't really give you the digits in between 10 and 20 here. So let's see what we got. Hear it click. We actually got these at about 15, but shh, we're not gonna say nothing. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be just fine. There's that one. Okie dokie. There's that. So at this point, that should be good. Everything inside the motor is tightened by this side, and also this side with the flywheel on it. Actually waiting on a new cup. This isn't the right cup, but I got to bolt it on here to spin it, especially to do what we're going to do next with this valve lash right here. So let me get set up to work on the valves. Okay, on this part, I'm gonna set the valve lash on these valves here, which is gonna be, you have to get them to this certain point where they're loose. I'm gonna try to explain that. And we'll be using a gauge to go in between here and get them what they're supposed to be. I've looked up the specs. I'm gonna try to explain real quick how this goes, how I understand it. I've watched videos, read about it, have had success before. But as you turn this, like right now, they're loose. And you gotta know, like, where's the piston supposed to be? It's gotta be on the compression stroke at top dead center, where they're both loose, to set this gap. But as you turn this engine, you will see right now the exhaust is going down. Okay, and you heard little poof of air there. That's the compression. That's the compression I didn't hear when I got this motor. But let's see if we can start this four-stroke cycle over. So the exhaust goes down, then it comes back up. Okay, and then as you keep turning, I'm turning this starter cup on the side. The exhaust starts to go down, but you don't want it to do that. You're going to want it to come back up and the exhaust to be up where they're both loose. Okay, and we are going to pull this plug and get a flashlight and make sure the piston head is at top dead center. I've already loosened this up. And it's kind of hard to see all this on camera. But I'm just going to attempt it right quick. But I can see down in there. I'm not sure you can exactly before I had the head on. And I can tell the piston is at top dead center in between the intake being up and the exhaust going down in its compression stroke, and that's where I need to set these. Yeah, basically on 4-stroke engines, you know, the valves work together and go down, draw air, do the explosion, then the exhaust, then the compression stroke. And it's hard to explain it. If you want to know, there's enough information available online to look this stuff up, watch people do it. So let's continue on now, and I've got my 14mm wrench and a 10mm wrench in my gauges. Okay, and the intake is supposed to be 0.15 gap, and the exhaust is supposed to be 0.20. That's going to be the gap underneath these here on the valve spring, the intake and exhaust valves. One more note to add here: if you're unsure of where the piston head is in there and you need top dead center, put a little screwdriver in there. And right now the piston head is down. I know where it is, and as we start to turn the motor, you see the screwdriver come up as the intake on the right lifts up, and it is stopped. The intake is loose, and this one's very loose, but don't worry, that's what we're about to adjust. But this is right where you want it to be, with top dead center on the compression stroke to do what we're going to do. Okay, I've got my gauge ready here to start on the exhaust valve side, and we'll just slide it down in there like that, and we will turn this bottom nut and then lock the top one on it. See, wiggle around there. It should be a little hard to get out, and pull it out, and then we'll get started on the other side. And this isn't something you can do the first time and get it. You're gonna see it's a little too snug, or hey, I want a little loose. Hey, let me double check it's right where it needs to be again. It's something we're gonna kind of play around with before it's locked down and done. You can see I have my gauge rigged up where it can kind of hold where it needs to be. As we turn first this bottom one, and kind of snug it down a little, see how it feels a little bit more, and then we'll go ahead and turn this one down where we think it needs to be. And we're not going to mess with the bottom one again. We're going to come back with a wrench on the top and go ahead and tighten it down on there. That's a little snug. Let's back this bottom back up to it. It is as far as it can be. And so at this point, I'm gonna have to hold this bottom one with the 14 and then use the 10 to lock it in place and see if I like it. Unfortunately, I don't have a tripod yet. I'm working on this stuff. Gonna make everything better here and easier to move around, make videos. Okay, so Off camera, I put my 14 there as you see, and I use the 10mm to turn this top nut and lock it down where I like it. And it's a little snug in there. This gauge will move a little bit, and I'm gonna roll with that one first on this exhaust side. So now let's work on the intake side. Having this air box on here helped out to hold my gauge tool. This side here on the intake is the 0.15, and we're gonna do the same method, tightening this down, kind of getting it where we want it. And then we're gonna turn the motor, double check the head, double check again 3, 5, 7 times, and just to make sure we're close. Spent a little bit of money to rebuild this engine, not as much as buying a brand new one, and so you don't want it tearing up right away. You want everything to be pretty close. But again, it's not some hot rod car that's $100,000, $150,000. So let me get this adjusted right quick, and I will come back and turn the motor and show you how it works again. All right, this one here I set up so you can kind of watch a little. I did the same method, tightened down, locked it against with the 1410, and my gauge isn't moving, so I don't like it. Rather than loosening this top one, it doesn't need much for that gauge to move just a little more as I want. I'm gonna go down on the bottom and just go ahead and turn it back towards the left. It shouldn't take much. It's starting to move in and out, a little too tight than I like. Oh, a little too much. Let's turn that back just a hair, tighten the top one down on it. That's about where I want it. Since I separated these a tad, let's go ahead and lock it back and hope it stayed where I want it. And it got a little tight again. So you just, at this point, let's try this method again with just the bottom to back it off. And right there, I like how that feels, which is similar to this side. So we pretty well should be squared away on having the valve lash set. And I'm gonna look back down in there, and I can tell my piston is at top dead center still. I know it's on the compression stroke, or one of these valves will be down or up, but if you listen to the cycles as you turn it, and you understand what a 4-stroke engine does, you know where to be at to set this valve lash. Okay, I think I'm gonna call it an end here at this video. Like I said, I'm not gonna get too far along on them. I would hope to get a video up in a week. Sometimes it may be 2, but we'll just see how it goes. I wanted to show off my Wild Hog bike here. You can follow me at Instagram, JD'z Garage. I believe there's a link on my YouTube channel. Same with Instagram, a link to my YouTube. But let me give you a peek at this bike here. This is my Wild Hog, what I've named it, and it deserves that. This puppy's got a lot of torque. I've accidentally wheelied it, come off it. I've laid it down on the trail. A lot of that got solved putting these grippers on it. But I have a reel on my Instagram page showing the build, the modifications, and everything of this bike. I really love it. It came from Go Power Sports. It's got a 212 Tilly on it. And I'm gonna be building another bike. It's a 1980 Yamaha frame. I'm gonna use these same style tires. I like my bikes lower. It's not incredibly low. But it reminds me of the Honda Fat Cats in the 80s. And those things just look awesome if you ever wanna look one up. My 4-wheeler here, like I said, is gonna get the bigger engine. Turn it into an automatic. That way my wife, friends, people can ride it and
they don't have to worry about a clutch. I already put a Honda 300 carburetor on it. It had a flimsy carburetor on it. You could never take the choke off. I updated the gear ratio to give it low end torque. Smaller sprocket on the front, bigger tube sprocket on the back is how you do that. But it's pretty cool. It's way more awesome than it looked when I got it. But we're going to be doing more work on it too. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Have a good week.